How does a former educator transition into the realm of entrepreneurship and create a thriving business empire in the dental industry? I bet you're curious. Well, today's episode is more than just a tale of Louisa Lee's 20-year journey in the dental and healthcare sector. It's about a pioneering Singaporean entrepreneur who has harnessed her passion for learning and education to shape a holistic health platform. Hello and welcome to Season 10 of the Womenpreneur Asia podcast, and I'm your host, Krista Gun. My mission is to uncover the stories and strategies of Asian women entrepreneurs to inspire and guide you on your own entrepreneurial journey. This episode is brought to you by Redbox Studio. I'm also excited to announce that applications are now open for a live month-long virtual program that I am co-teaching with my friend Rowena. We are teaming up to coach women who would like to create more opportunities for themselves by getting more visible. Applications are open until 15 August. Visit womenpreneurasia.com for more information. Today's episode features Louisa Lee, who is the CEO and driving force behind DP Healthverse in Singapore, a groundbreaking platform at the intersection of wellness and technology. As Louisa explains, our mission is to shift from traditional sick care to genuine healthcare. Her ultimate ambition is to create an interconnected wellness ecosystem that empowers individuals with knowledge and resources tailored to their health. Louisa's entrepreneurial spirit was fueled by a desire to integrate technology and innovation into patient care, and her unique perspective as a Gen X entrepreneur offers valuable wisdom for navigating the complex landscape of business ownership and innovation. She also speaks about the mistakes she made and how she struggled with confidence despite her incredible success in life. Louisa and I had a fabulous conversation, and this is what I love: candid conversations about business and life. Let's get into Louisa's story. Hi, Louisa. Welcome to Womenpreneur Asia.
Thank you, Krista, for having me.
Louisa, could you give us a brief background of how you came into your business and what made you go into the business that you're in right now?
So, Krista, before I actually am doing what I am doing currently, I used to be an educator. So my last job, so to speak, was a teacher, and I was teaching English language and literature. But the year was 2006, and my husband and I had the opportunity to buy over a dental practice. And it became like a family business that we actually literally had to pour in our whole life savings at that point, borrow money from our parents. So that was when I decided to take the leap and do a total switch. And basically, I've been managing our core business, which is DP Dental, for the past almost 20 years. So come next year, January, will be our 20th anniversary. But I've also since grown our business. So we grew from one dental practice in one unit to a four chair practice to 4 units in one place. At one point, we had 3 branches. Then we consolidated to 2. But we've also got a wellness clinic, a channel partnership distributorship arm, and an academy. Essentially, 1.5 years ago, we created a holdings company we call Healthverse, and that really encompasses the very integrated and future-proof kind of true healthcare vision that we have. Yes.
So, Louisa, this is the time for me to ask you, why a dental practice that you bought?
My husband and I, we actually met when we were 16, 17, and we were actually classmates in JC. So at that point in time, I really never knew that, he would one day become a dentist and that we would one day be working together. Actually, recalling back to our days in JC, I remember that at that point when I first entered Hwa Chong, I actually wanted very much to join my best friend in the humanities. But being the eldest daughter and, being at that point in time just rather obedient, and I felt like I should be, always listen to my parents. So I recall that, my mom at that time was telling me that, you have to choose triple science because that allows you the most option later on in life. And I was a little bit resentful, but I listened to her And now in hindsight, I realized that if I hadn't listened to her, I wouldn't have met my husband, we wouldn't have become classmates, and we wouldn't have been together. And he eventually chose dentistry. And when the opportunity came for us to buy over an existing practice, then that really became that turning point where we just totally embraced dentistry as the core family business.
So when you were in the business with your husband in 2006, right? Did you ever imagine it to be what it is today, almost 20 years later?
No, for sure not. Yeah. I think really at that time, I knew nothing about managing a business. To me, it was really all in, right? We just had to make sure it worked. But we did have our parents, especially our mothers, as example. So Wing Chu's mom ran a stall, several food stalls, and we saw how she interacted very well with her customers, to the point where when she's busy, some of her customers would even help her collect the plate, just help her out in the store. And my mother also at one point was leading a group of seamstress. She would drive me around while she went and, distributed the clothes for seamstress to sew from home and bring back. And I saw from her point of view, how she was really entrepreneurial and had that leadership skills. So I think our parents, especially our mothers, showed us the way that, to do a good business, you basically respect your customers, you respect the people you work with, and you even respect your suppliers. So, and all the people that you come in contact with in the business, you just end up being friends, and you treat people well, and that is to us the simple basis for how a business will flourish.
And you took those values for your own business?
For sure. Yes. I think for me, one thing that I think Wing Chu and I did one step further that was different from our parents was that we were early adopters. We knew we had to differentiate. We knew that to survive instinctively, we knew that we had to do things that was different. And that's how that's how we make it easier for people to choose us, right? As opposed to the thousands or tens of thousands of clinics around in Singapore. So I recall that very early on, we would be very open to adopting new technology like lasers, like CAD/CAM. And I think that innovative spirit, right, and the embracing of technology has really stuck with us. I think I'm very fortunate to be of this generation of, I identify with being a Gen X, right? And
I think being Gen X is actually one of the better generations to be in.
Yes,
right?
You're right. You're right.
We balance out. We balance out, right?
We are a very, very fortunate generation because, like, our parents, immediately after the war, they did experience a lot of hardship. And, we were the generation where if we were put through school, we had the education, computers. We started using computers when we were in university. I think handphones too came around that time. But thankfully, we were still young enough to be adopting technology and not be a total stranger to it or find it hard. So I think we are a generation where we straddle both worlds, right? We've seen how our parents or our grandparents have had some versions of hardship and how they saw that education was the way for us. And I think we are now at a very mature age and a very fortunate generation.
But enjoying the best of both worlds, right? One is we grew up with non-tech stuff, or non-tech practices or habits.
Remember how we used to, like, once you say I arrange with you, right? Say, Krista, I'm going to meet you on Saturday at 5 p.m. at, Suntec City. Then I better turn up.
There's no way you're going to text. Last minute, right? You cannot come.
I can't, or I literally have to go there and tell you, Krista, I can't make it today. Can we arrange another day? Yeah, but nowadays, right, it's just everything is just a text away, and it's a very, very different world, I must say, the one that we're living in now.
I feel that because we grew up in the era where there was not very much tech, we still remember what it's like to talk to a person face to face. Or to
and
have that kind of and have a real conversation rather than never mind, I'll text her, right? So you don't have that fear. I guess the fear of really interacting with a human being. And I think that's what you were referring to when you're saying that your husband's mother, did so well in her business, and because it's a human thing, right? Business is really human to human relations.
Yes, you're right. Actually, our generation, we learned that business is all about relationship. It's really all about how well, right, you treat everybody. And so it's not just our customers that we treat well, but also our team members. And then also, all the people who are supporting us, right? There's the different suppliers and all that. So, we have in our dental practice, most dental practices, the smaller ones especially, will have dental nurses who also then, double up as receptionists, right? To answer the phone calls and all that. I was our practice's first front desk person, right? But I was like...
customer service, right?
Yeah. But I was like, let's not call... this person at the front desk, because I'm not a piece of furniture, right? So we coined the term patient relations executives because we really wanted the name to reflect the role, and the role of this person who picks up the phone and is the first point of contact with potential patients are our relationship managers. And I wanted that name to be really imprinted in the person's mind that, hey, I'm here to maintain the relationship, and I'm the make or break person, because if I don't create a good first impression, then that's it, right? End of call. Yeah, the person wouldn't even be coming into our practice. So really, delivering wow service to our clients, to me, is the top of our values, but it's also really the thing that allowed DP Dental to survive, right? And I hope continue to thrive, for the past almost 20 years.
So that is a great milestone. So now I want to bring you back to the first day you opened DP Dental. Can you remember? What was the marketing strategy? What do you do to let people know that you're open for business?
Okay, so we were very fortunate in the sense that we didn't have to start from scratch. So we actually bought over an existing practice, but the first couple of years of any practice, it's a loss making one. And I think I still recall, when we bought over the practice, there were 2 rooms. The previous owner actually took back 1 chair, and we only had 1 dental chair, 2 doctors, and maybe a team of like 5 people. Do you remember the days of yellow pages? So I still recall that we were kind of auto-enrolled into a second year of yellow pages, and how we were already we were very clear that we were going to be people-centered. Right? People-centered for the team, people-centered in terms of, the patients. So I recall that we went to a studio and we took a team photo. So my eldest boy was born in 2005, and we even brought him along. And it's a pity because I don't think I have that photo anymore, but I still recall the team, 5 of us with the doctors, and my boy was there in the photo that we put in the yellow pages. And we were the only one in the yellow pages that had faces in the photo, because all the other practices were showing the very posh offices and all. But we put a group photo of the whole team in there. And I think that was already how we were different, and how we were already showing the world, right, that, hey, we are people-centered, we care about the people, and we really are here to deliver top-notch service.
In early years, you're saying it doesn't make money immediately, right? I mean, it takes a while for it to really take off and for people to know you and your business. So in those early years, what was that shift or that change? Suddenly something must have happened, right? I mean, it's not suddenly, probably it's gradual, but something must have happened that made that suddenly, we're doing all right, and not only doing all right, we're flourishing right now. So what was that turning point?
When we took over in the beginning of 06, by the end of 07, we had to register to be a GST registered company because we crossed the $1 million revenue. And I really, really believe that what made the difference was really being there, listening to the customers. Up to today, I believe that referrals are the best form of marketing. So any business should just focus on getting referrals. That if you don't get referrals, then something is not right with the business. And so we still strive for 50 or 60% of our business, of our new business, coming through referrals. And in fact, not just through patients. So for patients, it's about delivering the top-notch service so that they don't just keep coming back, but they also bring their whole village, right, their family, and they recommend their friends. I am now also looking at how we develop this other tier of referrals from allied health providers. Basically, just to share with you, for DP Dental, we went through this phase where, we were early adopters of technology. So we went through a technology phase where we were like adopting lasers and CAD/CAM, and my husband was even an international speaker on these topics. And then our third phase was when we went into linguodontics, because he discovered the power of the tongue and how it's got such a great impact on airway and on sleep. I realized that, true healthcare is one where we really should be putting the patient right in the center of our focus, and that all the different practitioners revolving around the patient. Because currently, unfortunately, the patient is still going ding-dong, right, from different specialists looking for the root cause of their problem. And for me, building and enhancing that community of interaction with allied health providers, sharing information about what they do and what we do, and enhancing this outer chain of referrals, right, cross referrals, I think that is one of our very strong strategy, so to speak. And because my husband, goes around the world to give lectures, we even receive referrals from doctors from all around the world. And I think that is an amazing thing, to be known not just in Singapore, but from
outside
all over
of Singapore.
The world. Yes.
So that is a strategy that it works on two levels, right? One is, of course, patient bring more of their family and friends. The other one is your own community of health providers out there are recommending, other doctors are recommending people to DP Dental and now DP Healthverse, right?
Yes. Education never quite left me. So, since I've left education, I realized that education still features very greatly in our dental practice. We dedicate a lot of time training the team, but we also run courses for other practitioners, for other dentists, for other healthcare practitioners. So to me, this love and passion for learning and educating is going to be a constant thread throughout my life, even. Yeah.
So, Louisa, you talked about education and, of course, your past as an educator, and now that you're educating in your own business. What do you do in terms of, I know you talk about training, but in terms of educating, as in generally, do you still educate on all aspects, or do you focus on a niche aspect of education in your business?
At one point in my life as an entrepreneur, I actually called myself a serial entrepreneur, until somebody corrected me and say, "Hey, Louisa, serial means that you start one business, you sell away, then you start another one, and then you sell, or and you move on, right?" But at one point, I had multiple businesses, and someone corrected me and said, "You should be calling yourself a parallel entrepreneur." So I have to share with you this story whereby, the dental practice was our DP Dental at Kovan was the first dental practice, and then we grew where we were, just very organically and locally. By 2010, when I was pregnant with my second child, I managed to make sure that the team could operate without me at that time, right? 5 years on since we first started the business. And so I experienced my first entrepreneurial itch, right, to expand and to do something different. And that was when I signed my eldest boy to this art course, and I really loved the program. And then my itch was how I ended up being a sub-franchisee of this children's art center, right? And that, I must say, ended up being one of my most costly real-life MBA. Yeah, so I sidetracked. I got lured by how, this first business seemed quite smooth sailing and easy. And I got sidetracked into setting up another one. I learned my lesson in a sense that I realized that managing a dental practice and then doing a children's art education program were two totally different things that had very little connection, and that split me. So I recall how one morning, just talking about it, right, I can still feel the cortisol coming down my neck. How one morning I got a call from the clinic to say that so-and-so is not well, so we're down by one person. And then I got a call from the art studio and say, so-and-so is not well, the one teacher is not well. And I'm like, oh, how do I split myself into two, right? Like, if it's just one, I could have just stepped in and helped out, right, and fill in the spot, But two, I couldn't divide myself. And so that was when I realized that, one important lesson that is not that I cannot grow or I shouldn't grow, but if you notice, right, Aventure Wellness, DP Dental, Progressive Practice, DP Academy, the businesses that I have now, they're all related to healthcare. And so they're all interrelated. And there is synergy amongst this. So I've learned my lesson not to divide myself and to be too ambitious and to split myself into something that's so totally different that I couldn't marry. So in the end, I sold away that art studio business.
Despite loving it.
Yes, despite, it was such an amazing program. Despite that. Yes. But haven't you heard the saying, right? If you love to drink coffee, do not set up a cafe. Right? The amount of money that you spend setting up the cafe, you can drink enough coffee for 10 lifetimes.
A lifetime. A lifetime or 10 lifetimes, right?
More than one lifetime.
Yeah. Because I think this is also something which I think a lot of people think about, right? If they love something, they want to do it. But it really needs some thinking through, like you said. If it doesn't really match with or kind of have a relationship with the first business, you're really going to go off in two different directions. And that's not going to be good for your own health, right? Despite running a health business.
Really, unless you really have a good team and maybe a solid manager, that's when you can really be just remote controlling, right? But if you're still in some ways needed in the business, then we're just asking for trouble.
Now that we learned about your business, there's a topic that we really want to get into, and that topic is about finding yourself and finding your confidence. This was a topic that we really dug into when we had our conversation. In our previous chat, I know that you're a high achiever. You're an academic star, if I might call it that. You did okay. Let's put it this way.
You called 小时了了大未必佳. So means that if you were amazing as a child, it may not necessarily translate into something when you're older. But yes, as a child, I must say that my parents gave us, my sister and I, very good environment to study. Literally, just if it's to do with academics, right? I remember my parents investing in that time was encyclopedia. It was really expensive, a set of encyclopedia. We had that. Anything to do with studies, I just have to or books, right? I just have to point and we would get it. My parents sacrificed a lot, like no TV except for weekends, and to make sure that we really had the environment to thrive. And so I also recalled that my dad would be going around the community centres all around Singapore looking for storytelling or singing competitions and giving us the opportunity. So I had this one song that I always sing called Mo Li Hua, and that was my winning song that I would go to all community centres.
Can you remember the song now?
Oh yeah, of course. The 好一朵美丽的茉莉花. It's a
classic, right?
A classic, yes.
Yeah.
My sister and I, we got so cocky at some point that we would even the first thing we go when we reach the community center was check out, what's the prize like, how big is the trophy? Yeah. Actually, our era was just trophies and maybe if you're lucky, some prizes like pencil case and all that. Later on, I heard they were giving cash vouchers and TV sets, but that wasn't my time,
That's where I wanted to start with. The fact that you are really good at what you did when you were a child in school and you were successful in school and even outside of school, right? Singing competitions and all that. Was there ever a time where you felt a lack of confidence or any self-doubt?
I think we all have our stories of, while growing up. For me was really the fact that I had a very amazing childhood where I was in the Rediffusion Children's Play Group. I was even in, some local CDIS. So I was like a child actress in educational videos that was played for the schools, for the Chinese curriculum. And but because of that, I recall that in Primary 5, I actually had a switch of class. And instead of, so we usually would follow a class, right? So afternoon session, morning session, afternoon session, morning session. But I recall that in Primary 5, I switched class and I was put into a class where I was really I had to adjust, to new classmates and all. And I even experienced a bit of, taunting, where people would actually call me like, oh, teacher's pet, because I could speak Mandarin very well and that, the Chinese teacher, pretty much, was involving me in a lot of things. Yeah. Perhaps that was the start of some wavering in my own confidence. I also recall my mom, who would sometimes be, very well intentioned, but like most Asian moms, sometimes you would, I must say this whole past is really quite hazy for me because I think I probably practiced selective amnesia, that there were painful moments and so I probably locked it away somewhere. The memory is really hazy, but I went through a phase where I wasn't confident despite all the, 4
the achievements, right?
Yeah, but despite all these achievements, right, I actually went through a period that, now talking about it, I feel tears welling up even. And honestly, it took me many, many years to overcome this. And in fact, it was when I was 40, when I first met somebody who could help me totally overcome this. This was a lady I met through Connected Women, and she told me that she was a raw food chef. Paulina was her name, and she told me that actually she was also trained in shamanism. And I was like, no, I don't need to speak to the dead. And she says, no, actually shamanism can help you power up. And so I was attracted to that, right? Because as a leader, in any organization, right, we always need a power boost. I told her, okay, I think I can do with a power up. When I entered her sacred room, she started strumming the drum. I closed my eyes and I really envisioned an eagle soaring in the sky. And at one point she got me to lay down and she put her hands on my shoulder. And I realized that, that visual image in my mind was the same one where in Maleficent, when her wings were, shaking and broke free of the cupboard and got fixed back onto her shoulders. That was that kind of a vision that happened to me. And I felt whole again, through that wordless healing process. And honestly, since I last spoke with you, Krista, I was also doing another round of reflection, right? And I totally realized that, hey, you know, my previous narrative had always been, that, it was all these childhood experiences, right, that caused me to be not confident. But now at 50, 10 years on from this experience, I think I'm finally able to even just face myself and even start to, ask myself, right, that perhaps all these while, right, it had never been the external factors. It had just been me and my own inner narrative that resulted in this, right? That I'm now finally old enough to face and old enough to own up, right? That it had all been me. And that I'm now ready to really dig deeper and reframe my own narrative about this whole episode.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring this up, not because I wanted to dig into your past and, draw out some negative experiences, but I felt it's very powerful because the moment you realize that this is who you are, right? Good or bad, good and bad, right? And you're able to accept that everything happened for a reason. And you're here for a reason, and you're here doing what you're doing for a reason anyway. So when you're able to accept that, I think it releases a lot of the fears, a lot of you can call it trauma, you can call it fear, you can call it doubt, or even lack of confidence. But if we are able to do that, I think it'll be very helpful, not only for us, but also the people around us, right? I think you became a different person after that.
I hope so. I hope so. But of course, I will still continue to, go through life where I really hope that people would give me feedback on how I can improve. But I only wish that they would just deliver it in a gentle enough manner. Because I think as it is, a lot of times we're already very harsh to ourselves, and we're already doing a lot of self-reflection. So I hope to continue to improve myself. And I think a lot of times when people see us with our achievement, right? Oh, you won this award, that award. Oh, wow, you've got these businesses, right? And oh, wow, it's like what we share on social media about our awards and all that generally are the positive part, right? Because I also don't believe that we should be airing our dirty linen in social media public. But I'm grateful for podcasts like yours that allow us to delve deeper and share also challenges or share failures even, right? Like my art studio incident. And because I think the world also needs to know that, or rather I think podcasts are a good opportunity to share, because it allows us to really flesh out our thoughts and tell our story at a deeper level, right? And but it's very important that people see that this is the norm, that there is no...
This is real life, right? This is real life.
This is life. This is life, full stop. Yes.
I think that is a very brave thing to do. It is not easy to tell the world that you discovered your true confidence at 40, right? I mean, nobody's going to go and shout it from the rooftops that they discovered their confidence at 40. So what would you say to women out there who are still struggling to find their confidence, still struggling to figure out, in a way, like they're not confident of doing many things? I mean, maybe let's not even talk about starting a business. Let's talk about regular, everyday, maybe career, doing regular, everyday life things. Like, what would you tell another woman who's listening to this and I just want to find how to be more confident in my own life? What would you say to that person?
I think what I shared earlier, the main message of what I shared earlier was about belief, right? Our belief in ourselves. And I think the other thing that I really want to tell every woman or person out there is we have to love ourselves. We have to love ourselves. Only when we learn to love ourselves, then everything else will fall into place. That's why, the motivation for me to always constantly want to improve, right? Because I want to be a person whom even I myself can love. and yeah, so just one simple thing, love yourself, right? Or become that person that you can love. And then the confidence, and then everything else will fall in place.
How would you describe yourself to another person?
Describe myself. Wow.
Yeah.
I haven't had an interview. This feels like a job interview. Okay, so interestingly, I love playing with AI. As you know, like I said, right? I'm like a early adopter right now, and we all know AI is the way to go, right? Although, just a word of caution that I also learned that just a Google search consumes far less energy than a search using Perplexity or any other form of AI. So to ask with mindfulness, right? To think that, is this a question that Google can answer? Then just use Google and consume less energy. But an interesting thing that I was doing was that, because there's already so much information that I've been putting out on LinkedIn, on the websites, and then about, DP Dental, about Healthverse, and also I actually asked AI, so what is my mission, right? And it actually picked out, that, Louisa, your mission is, to optimize the human potential, because that was what I put up somewhere, I believe. And I could even get it to summarize my core values. Yeah. So I actually have it on my notebook that I have here. Because I was like, I literally copied it out again in my notebook. Okay. And so if you ask me, like, who is Louisa, right, or what is Louisa about, right, I think I identify with my core values, right? And my core values are, number one, congruence and alignment. So for me, I'm a very strong proponent that who you see talking to you right now, is who you see if we ever meet face to face, if I ever fly to Penang. And it's going to be who you see on social media. And my own personal values and my core values for my business are aligned. Yeah, so I believe very much in being congruent, in being aligned, because I think that is the future of how you are able to attain trust. Because we now live in a world where even my sons will question what they are. The first reaction, right, to any kind of news is it fake news? Yeah, that's what they will. Yeah, so it's actually, we are living in a world where people are questioning, is it fake, as the first line of question. So that's quite worrying, right? And which means that we are now living in a world of eroded trust. So how do you build that trust in the shortest possible time is how congruent and aligned we are, right? Number two is my holistic approach. Yeah, so I realized that everything is about solving problems at the root cause. And while we're doing that in our dental, right, and realizing that actually airway is the root cause of a lot of dental issues, I'm also looking at how management-wise or operations-wise, whenever we want to solve a problem, we don't just solve it symptomatically, but how do we solve problems at the root cause? Number three, sustainability and legacy. I think, this whole pursuit of a B Corp certification, we're the first and only B Corp dental practice in 9 in the world, is our testimony to, that yes, despite all that's happening, or some people saying that, it's too late, the climate change is happening, the temperature's rising, but we still have to do our part. And for me, it's also about wanting to leave a legacy behind, right? And in my case, it is to shift the current sick care to a true healthcare and start to build that vision, because I am 50 and I believe I still have ability to have 70 years ahead of me. We have the technology to sustain life up to 120. But what is that quality of life? I better start doing the work now. And hence, that whole adoption of technology, the embracing of innovation, but at the same time, so that's my number 4 actually, that AI generated for me, that innovation and tradition. So they even picked up that, I embrace the technology, and yet I always hark back to our roots, our tradition, right? And how do we still upkeep our tradition but using the newer methods? And I think lastly is, integrity has always been very, very high on my husband and my list. I think for us, we have high standards. And I think only businesses where the owners have high standards can survive 20 years and more. And that's where integrity comes in, the commitment to really being ethical and collaboration. Integrity and collaboration was my number 5. And I think that's why I'm such a community builder. So if you ask me who is Louisa, I have a beautiful vision of a very healthy world. And I am a leader in that field where I am forging that revolution to achieve that world where we are no longer dealing with disease, but we are just dealing with how to be optimal human beings of a higher conscious level. And I think that is only possible if we embrace collaboration, we embrace a growth mindset, we embrace an abundance mindset, and we start being responsible beings on earth.
I like your message about sustainability and legacy. I think that is probably something that all of us should think about, right? Not just because we're in business or not. I mean, as the way things are going, we should all be responsible for some part of making sure the world is still healthy and livable.
Yes.
There's no point in us being healthy, right? Without the world being healthy.
You're right. Yep. So that health should extend not just to human health, but the health of our Mother Earth. Yes. Yep.
So now I want to ask you, I mean, I know you did mention that you learned certain lessons from the business that you became a sub-franchisee, but later you sold off. But are there any lessons that you've learned across this almost 20 years of being in business that you like to share?
I think the people in the business is always the one that gives the largest challenge in a way, because early on, when I first entered dentistry, I knew nothing about dentistry. I realized that I was very hungry to hire people with the experience, but sometimes at the expense of hiring people who don't have really great attitude, in a sense that they're not team players, or they gossip, they're not keen to learn new things, and they just want to hold on to the past. So I've since learned lesson number 1 is that, it all starts with the hiring process. The culture that you want to build is not something that you can make or create. You can state, you can say all you want, right? But ultimately the real culture is how people behave within the organization. And so it really starts with the hiring process, or later on, if you can, how we change out the people, right? And only have the ones who really truly embody the culture. So that was one lesson that I learned. Another lesson that I learned was, throughout the 20 years, we have invested so much in the training of so many people, whether they were our doctors, whether they were our team members, right? This is where I think SME owners will face this very painful yet good thing, I guess, whereby at some point your team members will have some self-actualization. In fact, I think, even that opportunity to buy an existing practice, right, was Wing Chu's mentor's way of allowing him to self-actualize as a business owner. So there's always this part where, we will end up putting in a lot of effort to train, with the hope that, of course, this person will, pay back into the business for a long time. But sometimes it's just not as long as we hope, and that it is a reality that we have to take, right? And so, in fact, we really even have to adopt that mindset that we are literally a training organization, right? A school.
Academy, right? Academy.
Yes, an academy. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. And that, people who come and go, they are like, so they would
Your
actually,
students, right? Your students.
Yes, they are like our students. So our team are actually our students that, and that they will need to graduate one day. So we have to be, strong enough to bear that, okay, it's like the students have to graduate one day. And that I still remember that, sometimes my husband and I will look at each other and say, at least, we have each other lah. Yeah. So that was another thing that we learned to get used to, as business owners. If you ask me right now, harking back to 2006 when we first started the first clinic, I probably at that time wanted to build a 100-year-old clinic, like build a clinic that would last 100 years. Talk to me now. I'm saying that I'm looking at ways in which I can further consolidate my clinic, and look at other ways to scale, and I'm now in the process of building an e-commerce platform. So how do we have automation? So I'm looking at automation and scalability, and it's so different. So different now, the future that I envision for Healthverse as opposed to when we first started with DP Dental.
I'm very curious now. What is the future like for DP Healthverse? Now that you mentioned it with the e-commerce, so what is it like in Louisa's mind?
I seek to be that top wellness platform that people can go to for the latest information there is about how you can change your habits. So I'm a functional medicine certified health coach, and I believe that the future is one where people don't wait until they fall sick before they go and see a doctor and then have to pay hefty bills. I'm in the process of educating people already that 80% of the time we are suffering from chronic inflammation that is the result of our current habits. So how you're breathing, whether you're drinking enough water or what kind of water are you drinking, what's the food that you are taking, what's the nutrition, are you having enough movement, are you exposed to light and sound, the good kind for, good frequency, are you getting good quality sleep, do you love yourself, and are you surrounded by people who love you, right? To me, these are the basic tenets that I want to educate the world on, right? And so I want Healthverse to be that platform where people can come to for all the latest information, but with Asian-centric spin. Because I must say that we have in our blood and in our ancestry, Tai Chi Qigong yoga have existed thousands of years, right, as the basic wellness practice that you incorporate breathing and movement all at once, and you just practice like half an hour, 1 hour in the morning, and you're set for the day. Finally, now science has caught up to explain why it's important. And I want to bring that to the world, with our dental medical background, right? Share with the world what science has now proven of the traditional, right, practices and why it's important. And so for me, I hope for Healthverse to be that platform, that go-to platform where then the community can come together also, right, to learn about each other's expertise and then promote that collaboration, promote that referral, right, and also then having that e-commerce platform, right, where you can come and get all the latest gadgets that you can find that is amazing to help you get better sleep, to help you breathe better, and essentially that's what's in my mind right now.
So in a way, you've come full circle, right? You're an educator at heart, and you're still going to be an educator in the coming future.
And do you know why I became an educator? Because actually, first and foremost, I am a learner. So for me, it didn't start out as like, I want to be a teacher, but it's more like I love learning, right? And so teaching is actually just a matter of like sharing how I learn and what I learned. And so honestly, it's actually the main driver for me is learning. And I think that is also what's behind this belief of mine from young or from very early on, that I can be anything I want to be, right? And especially now with internet and better still with generative AI.
Yeah, with
Oh my
AI,
goodness.
right?
It's
Yeah.
like you just need to know the right prompt to ask, the right question to ask, and you have all the answers, right? That is very important. That's a very important mindset and attitude that people need to have. And I think the other thing, so when I did my some tests, I can't remember which one. You know what came up top for me in terms of my I think it was my VIA values or something, hope. So I think the other thing that actually every entrepreneur should have is this unrealistic, optimistic level of hope, because it is because of hope and this whole idea that we will one day achieve our vision. That's what then spurs us into the action, and that's what will help us create what we will be creating in the future.
I love that, because I think in hope there's optimism. Because if you're not optimistic, you won't be hopeful, right? Hopeful means there's a tinge of optimism somewhere that you know that it can be better.
Yes, I mean there are times definitely when cash flow is tight, when things are difficult, and but I think for me is that I know what we're doing is the right thing. Even though we're disrupting our own industry, but we know that what we're doing is contributing to humanity's good. I have full belief that I have the support of the universe, and and it has proven over and over again that just when money is a bit tight, something comes in and helps fill that gap. There will always be enough. There's always enough, and so to me that just spurs my hope even more. That as long as I know I'm doing good, I am contributing to humanity. The universe, God, conspires to provide us with always just enough.
Yeah. And that is such a wonderful way for us to wrap up our almost 1 hour conversation. Can you imagine? We've been talking for 1 hour.
Wow, we could talk on for longer.
There are so many things I wanted to go into and ask you about, like for instance, things like, how's it like working with your husband? Right, that
we should do another episode.
We
bring him in, right?
What's it like working with your husband?
Couple entrepreneurship is a very interesting
yes. Because there's so many different dynamics when you're working with your spouse. Because I work with my spouse, so it's like somebody has to take a role, somebody has to do something.
Yes. You have to know very clearly what's your strength and weaknesses, and then apportion that, and be very clear, right? The roles. Okay, I'm in charge of this, so I have the last say. You're in charge of that, you have the last say, and then that's it.
Yeah. But the one thing I realized that if you're in business with your husband, there's never a dull moment. Am I right?
No, I can't imagine how else. Like, I don't believe in work-life balance. So I can't imagine, so I believe in work-life integration, because what we do, for him, dentistry is his hobby, literally, apart from gardening. I think when you love what you do and then you're doing it as together, it's just so natural and so meaningful. Yes, and I think it's only when you have your own business, you're allowed to shape it the way you want it to be. So I think it's a beautiful thing, and we are very fortunate that we have managed to work together for the past.
Now I remember there was a question I wanted to ask you. Okay, since you discovered your own true confidence at 40, how has it shaped your decision making and leadership skills as a business owner? I wanted to ask it. Very important.
Yes. I think, so again, that self-belief, right? So I came to the realization that, why all along I had this belief that I was the vice captain of the ship, right? That, my husband was the one, painting that vision and leading the way. And I came to the realization that, shockingly, that actually no one assigned me a vice captain role. And in fact, if I were to ask my husband, he had always viewed me as a co-pilot. But I viewed myself as a vice captain. And so that shifted in me, right? That then I think that was how the start of how then I started creating the Healthverse concept. Before that was about DP Dental and the growing, and it's all about dentistry and maybe still things related to dentistry, but really that whole evolving, right, of a even bigger vision, I think grew from that confidence, right? That, hey, actually I am a co-pilot in this whole journey. that I actually have a role to play in the painting of that vision too. Yeah.
So that's how you came up with DP Healthverse.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where all the different pieces now fit together.
I hope so. We're still working. We're still working very hard because, creating. So I'm now, creating like ecosystem as a strategy play, right? So I'm creating my own mini ecosystem here, but it's still a journey to link up the different entities. But slowly but surely we'll get there.
Okay, great. And on that note, I must ask you, so where can people find you if they want to connect with you after hearing this very interesting episode about Louisa and her businesses?
I mean, look me up, Louisa Lee, on LinkedIn, or you can always email me, louisa@dpdental.com.sg. I love talking to fellow entrepreneurs or mentoring, or at least just sharing my experiences further. I am a problem solver, so if you have a problem, I have great ideas and different perspective. That's my strength also. Yeah, look LinkedIn, look up our website, dpdental.com.sg or dphealthverse.com, and on social media at Louisa Lee on Instagram. Do just drop me a message. Happy to chat.
Thank you, Louisa. I had a great time talking, as I knew I would. I am very optimistic because I know the moment when I talk to someone in a preliminary call, if they are open and engaging and they're willing to share their stories, the setbacks as well as the successes, it will be a very good interview. It is only when people clam up and they don't want to tell anyone anything. That's where it gets a bit tricky for me because I need to probe a lot. But you made my life very easy today because you love sharing your stories. So I love hearing your stories. I love the fact that you are such a open-minded and open, and also you're very curious. So I think that itself makes for wonderful, engaging dialogues like this.
Thank you. I'm only able to do this because I found my wings. Can you see my wings?
Yes. The wings that came out from somewhere, right? And got stuck to your body again.
Stuck back. Yes, I've got my
back
wings
to your
back.
body.
So I've at the same time grown a thicker skin, and and I realized that it is important. It is important that people see the holistic view, right? The total view, right? The good and also the challenges, so that everyone can realize that we are all in the same boat. We all have our glory moments, but we all have our struggles too, and no one is alone in that. Yeah.
Exactly what I want to put through in my podcast is to share all this so that women who are either in business, struggling, or even you're just looking for hope and some form of like, I wish, someone could have told me this, right? Kind of advice sharing and also giving somebody some hope and optimism. That's why I do my podcast the way I do my podcast.
Yes, so what you're doing is so important. And thank you, Krista, for creating Womanpreneur or Asia for this. It's amazing what you're doing.
Thank you. What was your key takeaway from my conversation with Louisa? Mine was about her optimism and abundance mindset, filled with hope for herself and her company. I love how she focused on values above all else. When she spoke about the people in her company, I could discern that she cares deeply about her team, so much so that her heart breaks a little when people leave. Her emphasis on nurturing relationships and maintaining business integrity resonate with me deeply. She shows how being an early adopter and innovator can set you apart and underscores the importance of integrating personal values into your professional life. If you are new to this podcast, be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out on the latest episodes. For my returning listeners, could you do me a favor? Please rate and review this podcast on your preferred podcast app. Your feedback greatly helps others find and enjoy our show. And I will see you again next Friday for another brand new episode of Womanpreneur Asia.